I stared into the antique silver mirror hanging in my hallway, utterly frozen. Someone was standing directly behind me in the glass, yet when I turned around, the hallway was completely empty. My heart pounded against my ribs as I spun back toward the mirror. The tall figure in the glass remained there, lingering just inches behind where my shoulders should have been. I reached out, a trembling hand, pressing my fingertips against the cold surface. The reflection mirrored the gesture perfectly, but the shadowy stranger behind my glass silhouette tilted its head slowly. That head tilt was entirely uncoordinated with my own movements. Panic clawed at my throat as I realized the entity trapped inside the silver frame possessed a terrifying, independent will of its own. I bolted down the dim corridor into the kitchen, slamming my back against the counter. I gripped the edge, gasping for breath, while trying to convince myself my exhausted mind was hallucinating. The flickering overhead bulb cast long, jagged shadows across the worn linoleum floor. Every creak of the old wooden floorboards outside made my skin crawl with the distinct sensation of being stalked. Tentatively, I crept back toward the hallway, dreading what I might see hanging on the wall. The antique mirror sat there innocently, catching the pale moonlight filtering through the dusty front window. I stepped closer, peering into the dark glass with cautious reluctance. To my mounting horror, the tall, slender figure was back, standing closer this time, its dark eyes locked intently onto mine. Its fingers rested flat against the inside of the glass, perfectly aligning with my own trembling palms. The temperature in the hallway plummeted instantly, frosting my breath in the stagnant night air. I noticed a faint, jagged scar etched into the wooden frame near the bottom corner. It was shaped like an old cryptographic rune, something I had never previously noticed during all my years here. Reaching out, I traced the carved symbol with my fingernail. The moment my skin touched the wood, the reflection in the mirror smiled a wide, agonizing grin that stretched impossibly across its face. I stumbled backward, tripping over the hallway rug and crashing hard onto the floorboards. The absolute silence of the apartment amplified the sound of my ragged breathing echoing off the peeling wallpaper. Pulling myself up, I grabbed a heavy brass candlestick from the side table. If something was trapped inside that glass, I was going to find out what it wanted before it crossed over. I raised the brass candlestick high, stepping back toward the mirror with defiant anger. The figure in the reflection raised a matching weapon, mimicking my aggressive stance with cold, mocking precision. Wait. The object in its hand wasn't a brass candlestick. It was an old iron hammer, stained with dark, dried residue that sent a fresh wave of nausea rolling through my stomach. I leaned in closer, squinting against the dim lighting to examine the gruesome detail. The hammer looked terrifyingly real, etched into the silver backing like a permanent stain beneath the polished surface. This apartment belonged to an antique dealer who vanished decades ago under mysterious circumstances. Nobody ever found his body, but the local archives mentioned a horrific struggle inside this very front hallway. I rushed into the study, flipping open my laptop to search local newspaper archives. The grainy digital scans from 1992 showed a missing person poster bearing a face I suddenly recognized instantly. The missing dealer shared my exact height, my exact build, and wore the very same navy sweater I had thrifted last week. A cold sweat broke out across my forehead in realization. I sprinted back to the hallway, my bare feet slapping against the floor. The mirror stood glowing faintly in the dark, and the figure inside was no longer just mimicking my movements. It was tapping frantically on the glass surface, its mouth moving in silent, desperate syllables. I pressed my ear against the frame, straining to catch the faint whisper echoing from the other side. "Get out," a raspy voice breathed directly against my eardrum, sounding as though it originated from inside my own skull. The chill of the warning paralyzed my limbs right where I stood. I refused to run away from this nightmare any longer. Gripping the edge of the heavy wooden frame, I tried to lift the antique mirror off its mounting hooks to smash it. The massive frame didn't budge an inch, as if it had fused permanently into the plaster wall. I pulled harder, my muscles straining against the unyielding weight while the entity watched me. The dark figure tilted its head back, laughing soundlessly as my efforts proved entirely futile. Its dark eyes flashed with a sudden malicious intelligence that signaled a much darker trap closing in. I glanced down at the floorboards beneath the mirror and noticed something deeply disturbing. My footprints were missing from the dusty floor, leaving the wooden surface completely undisturbed despite my frantic pacing. I raised my hands in front of my face, staring at my trembling fingers in disbelief. They looked slightly translucent, shimmering like heat haze against the dark wallpaper of the narrow corridor. Another terrifying clue clicked into place in my racing mind. If my footprints weren't on the floor, and my body cast no shadow, exactly what kind of existence was I currently experiencing here? I stepped right up to the glass again, pressing my palms flat against the cold surface. The entity inside didn't step back. Instead, it pressed its hands against mine from the outside. Wait, the outside? A disorienting vertigo washed over me as the geometry of the hallway seemed to bend and warp. The lighting shifted from dim apartment bulbs to the harsh glow of a street lamp. Through the glass, I could see a messy living room cluttered with boxes and old books. A young man with messy brown hair was pacing nervously across the floor, talking on his phone. I recognized that young man instantly. It was me, 3 days ago, moving into this cursed apartment for the very first time, completely unaware of the malicious presence waiting in the silver glass. I watched myself walk past the hallway mirror, completely oblivious to the dark watcher standing inside the frame. The entity in the glass had been tracking every single move I made since arrival. Every clue I found, every room I entered, and every fear I felt was carefully orchestrated. The mirror wasn't reflecting my reality. It was pulling me deeper into its own simulated domain. The edges of the hallway began to darken, dissolving into thick, viscous black ink. The wallpaper peeled away in long, wet strips, revealing rough, unfinished wooden beams behind the crumbling plaster walls. I tried to scream out, but no sound escaped my lips as the air grew suffocatingly thick. My reflection, the real entity, stepped out of the glass and directly into the dissolving apartment space. He grabbed my shoulders with a firm, bone-crushing grip, shoving me backward toward the silver frame. I fell forward into the polished glass surface, expecting it to shatter beneath my plunging weight. Instead of breaking, the glass parted like cold water, pulling me headfirst into the reflective abyss. A loud ringing filled my ears as colorful geometric patterns swirled violently around my vision. When my eyes finally snapped open, I was standing inside the narrow hallway of the apartment. The lighting was dim, the air was cold, and my navy sweater felt heavy against my chest. I looked down at my hands, flexing my fingers in the dim amber light. Everything felt completely normal, yet a profound sense of wrongness settled deep within the core of my being. Slowly, hesitantly, I turned my head to face the antique silver mirror mounted on the wall. A tall man stood inside the glass, staring back at me with wide, terrified eyes. It was a stranger with messy brown hair and a dark navy sweater, looking trapped and desperate. He pressed his palms against the surface, his lips moving in silent, frantic pleas for help. Horror bloomed in my chest as I realized the cruel cycle of this entity. I wasn't the human who had escaped. I was the next inmate locked inside the glass frame forever. The stranger inside the mirror pounded his fists against the glass, unaware of my presence. I raised my own hand, pressing my palm flat against the barrier to welcome the newest prisoner home. Days melted into an endless blur of silent observation inside the silver frame. I watched the newcomer pace the hallway, make panicked discoveries, and slowly lose his sanity just like I had. I knew his every move before he even made it, anticipating his terror with cold detachment. Being the watcher was vastly different from being watched, but the hunger inside remained equally insatiable. Then, a new tenant arrived in the real apartment months later, carrying cardboard boxes. I watched through the glass as a woman with blonde hair unlocked the front door, stepping into my old life. My attention shifted from the man trapped with me to the fresh prey walking the hallway. The mirror hummed with dark energy, preparing to pull another unsuspecting soul into its silver labyrinth. We coordinated our movements, standing behind her reflection as she walked past the antique frame. She paused, shivering, as the sudden drop in temperature signaled our presence just inches behind her shoulder. She spun around, finding the hallway completely empty, exactly as I had done years ago. A grim smile spread across my face as I watched her panic unfold with chilling, rehearsed precision. The apartment felt alive with anticipation as the psychological torment escalated day by day. Every clue we left in the glass pushed her closer to the breaking point we knew so well. Soon she would find the cryptographic rune carved into the wooden frame. Soon she would realize her footprints were gone and her body cast no shadow on the worn wooden floorboards. We stood shoulder to shoulder inside the mirror, waiting for the precise moment to swap places once again. The glass rippled like dark water, eager to swallow another victim into its endless silver cage. She reached out, a trembling hand pressing her fingers against the cold glass surface. The barrier weakened, parting like mist to welcome her into our timeless prison of endless reflections and whispers. She tumbled through the glass, landing hard on the floor beside us with a gasp. Another soul added to the collection, another voice whispering warnings to the next poor soul who moved in. I turned away from the newcomer, peering back out through the front of the silver glass. Another unfamiliar face was already standing in the hallway, looking directly into the mirror with curiosity. Time lost all meaning as centuries of tenants came and went through the cursed apartment. We were no longer separate individuals, but collective pieces of a single ancient entity that needed hosts. I finally understood the terrifying truth behind my entire existence. I had never been a living man who stumbled into a cursed mirror. I was a manifestation born directly from the glass. The mirror had been watching humanity for centuries, crafting elaborate illusions of human life to lure victims in. Every memory, every emotion, and every fear I felt was just a fabricated construct. I was never looking into the mirror during all those quiet nights in the hallway. Instead, the mirror had been watching me, and every person before me, my entire life without a single blink. Now, I am just part of the silver coating, waiting in the dark for the next curious soul to look in. Can you see me standing right behind your shoulder right now?